I think it's fair to say you can expect a little bit of confusion, there's no doubt about that, but also a great deal of excitement here on this caucus night. That's because it's been described as a game of musical chairs where you can expect the various caucus goers to have lots of lively dialogue as they attempt to persuade others to come and join them with their preferential candidates. Now, I'm here in the media filing centre. This is where the results will start to come in on caucus night. There's some 1,678 precincts across the state, a further 99 satellite sites as well, mainly outside of the state. Make no mistake, this is a big deal for each of the candidates, and that's why over the course of this weekend we've been seeing each of them really hitting the campaign trail, trying to sew up and drum up as much support as possible and ensure that their supporters also come out in force on caucus night.
A final push on the campaign trail as the various Democratic presidential candidates attempt to win over swing voters ahead of the Iowa caucuses. It promises to be a tight race in the first votes of the 2020 nomination season.
This moment is our moment to dream big, fight hard, and win.
Going into the caucuses, Bernie Sanders appears to have a slight lead in most of the polls, and his campaign was further boosted by the support of indie rock band Vampire Weekend. Not that the Vermont senator was taking that support for granted.
If there's a low voter turnout, let me be very frank, we're going to lose. But if there is a high voter turnout, we're going to win.
Most of the candidates have been campaigning here for more than a year, meeting voters, listening to their issues and attempting to win their votes. But now comes a moment of truth as each candidate finds out how much they have connected, but perhaps more importantly, which ones will get a much-needed boost of momentum ahead of the primary push.
The other front-runner, the former Vice President Joe Biden, focused on his electability. His message that he is the candidate best equipped to beat President Donald Trump in November's election.
I think it's pretty simple. They don't want me to be the nominee because, I'll beat him like a drum.
Iowa is a major agricultural state. Some voters here see the various global trade disputes and the impact tariffs has had on farming as a key issue going into the caucuses.
Much harder a fight than it was 4 years ago with the farming tariffs. We're fighting the people we're trying to sell our crops to.
One of the things that I think is really important is the tariffs that have really devastated the American farmer, especially Iowa farmers. Iowa farm suicides are at record levels, and it's because they're losing everything.
Once in the history of the modern caucuses has someone finished lower than third in Iowa and gone on to win the party's nomination. But this time round, the process promises to be a little different, with billionaire Michael Bloomberg essentially skipping the contest. Bloomberg only entered the race in November and will focus on later polls. That, though, perhaps simply adds more pressure on those here.
Saying that there are only 3 tickets out of Iowa in this presidential nomination race. You have to finish in the top 3 here. And if we take that as read, and if we assume that the polls are correct, then it would seem as though Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden already have 2 of those tickets already in the bag. So the key question would be who would join them, and that means it's the likes of Amy Klobuchar, Elizabeth Warren, and Pete Buttigieg, for example, whether they can get into that top 3. As I say, there's a huge amount riding on this going into this Iowa caucus night.
Definitely a lot at stake. Dan Williams live for us in